Finally, boys, look what we got here. Could Resident Evil's Chris Redfield survive Arkham Asylum? Finally, we get Chris Redfield and not Leon. God damn. Like, oh my God. I mean, I know this is probably going to be a lot less interesting to some people because it's not Leon, but I mean, Chris is just as tough. Like, let's be honest, Chris is just as tough. Let me know what you guys are thinking immediately down in the comments below. Could Chris Redfield survive Arkham? No, he can't. Right. Arkham Asylum is a prison of DC's most deranged individuals, and with DC being God amongst men in terms of like their characters, Chris is walking into hell, basically. I mean, we saw what happened to the Punisher. He got cooked instantly, and the Punisher is kind of on the same level as Chris, I would say, like, in my opinion, kind of. Not really, but that's a weird matchup, low-key, right? Chris and Punisher. I don't know. But let's jump in here, boys.
Asylum, the most dangerous prison on Earth. Batman's worst enemies locked behind a single set of walls. And tonight, something cracked those walls open. The Megamycete, the fungal bioweapon from Resident Evil 8, is spreading through the island. The inmates aren't just crazy anymore. They're infected, mutated.
So that's why Chris is there.
So the question is, would Chris Redfield, the BSAA's most battle-hardened operator, actually survive this? We're gonna walk him through every section of that asylum, break down the biology and the physics, and hand out a survival tier from F to S. Let's go. The infiltration. Killer Croc in the sewers. Chris hits the island through the sewer grate on the south end. Standard entry for a covert op. The water is waist-deep, freezing, and contaminated. Black mycelium threads pulse along the walls like a nervous system that already knows he's there. His loadout is the RE8 standard kit, the Dragoon assault rifle chambered in 5.56, a tactical knife, and a handful of flashbangs. Enough
need more
to
than
handle
that, buddy.
a Lycan squad. What's waiting in this tunnel is not a Lycan squad. Killer Croc in the base Batman lore is already a nightmare on paper. His bite force clocks in at roughly 4,000 psi. His skeletal structure is hypertrophied, his skin calcified. He's already bulletproof in places that matter. Now the layer of Megamycete on top of that. The fungal network doesn't just infect, it reinforces. It deposits calcium-rich mycelia fibers into existing bone and dermal tissue, which is the same mechanic that gives molded enemies in RE7 that dense, almost ceramic exterior. On Croc, that process accelerates existing calcification into something closer to reactive play.
Okay, yeah. Now, if the characters are going to be upgraded like this, Chris is dead, right? Like, he's done.
Plate armor, his cellular regeneration now mirrors a lichen in mid-transformation. Standard 5.56 rounds from the Dragoon don't penetrate, they embed. Chris figures this out in about 4 seconds, which is about 3 seconds after Croc lunges out of the dark water. The grab happens fast. Croc gets both hands on Chris's shoulders and pulls him under. Tunnel vision. The pressure at even 3 feet of submersion compresses the chest. Breathing becomes a fight on its own. Add Croc's grip strength, which in his base form can bend rebar, and Chris is now managing structural damage to his armor while simultaneously drowning. The smell down here is standing water and decay and something fungal, something alive. The flashlight cuts out. He's fighting blind. This is where the training separates Chris Redfield from a dead man. He doesn't panic. He doesn't thrash. He identifies the one anatomical gap in Croc's mutation, the interior of the mouth. Soft mucus tissue, no calcification, no fungal armor. The Megamycete can reinforce external structure, but internal cavities are biologically protected from that kind of mineral deposit. You can't calcify your own throat lining without catastrophic system failure. Chris pulls a flashbang, hooks his elbow around Croc's lower jaw and forces it open, and detonates it point blank inside his mouth.
I mean, Killer Croc's bite strength has got to be superior to Chris's like arm strength, low key, right? So there's no way, even if Chris is trying to like pull open Killer Croc's mouth, there's no way like his hands would just get like destroyed, unless his bite strength really isn't that strong, or Chris is actually like that strong. So I don't know.
Wave travels
Crazy,
straight
though.
into his brainstem. Croc drops. The body dissolves. Not from the blast, but because the Megamycete begins breaking down the host tissue the moment the neural signal goes dark. Standard mycological decomposition on a hyper-accelerated timeline. And then the fungal network on the tunnel walls pulses bright all at once, like a warning system that just got triggered, because that's exactly what it is. The Megamycete is a distributed intelligence. Croc's death is a data point, and the whole island just received it. Chris surfaces, spits contaminated water, and checks his ammo. The sewer threat is done, but something topside just started moving. Survival tier B. The courtyard. Tyrant Bane.
I think
Chris comes up through the
probably
maintenance
dies to
hatch
Killer
in the
Croc.
courtyard, and the first thing he notices is the silence. No wind, no rain hitting stone the right way. The black mold has spread across every surface out here. The walls, the guard towers, the busted floodlights. It's not growing randomly. It's structured, organized. The mycelium is calcifying the stone itself, fusing with the limestone and mortar the way it fused with Croc's skeleton down in the tunnel. Arkham isn't just infected, it's being consumed and rebuilt at the same time. Then Bane steps out of the shadow near the east wing. Base Bane is already a problem most people underestimate because they think of him as just a big guy on drugs. He's not. His venom formula is a biomechanical amplifier. It floods his system with a synthetic adrenaline compound that temporarily overrides the neural governors that stops human muscles from contracting at full capacity. Those governors exist for a reason. Without them, a maximum muscular contraction tears the muscle from the bone. Venom bypasses that limit. His documented lifting feats in Batman lore sit around 2 tons. His grip crushed Batman's spine through the suit. That's the baseline. Now he's pumping venom that's been contaminated with the Megamycete. The mutation is immediate and it's ugly. The fungal strain doesn't just amplify what's already there. It replaces the venom tube entirely, growing mycelia conduits directly into his musculature. His mass roughly doubles in under 30 seconds. What you get is something that reads biomechanically like a T-103 Tyrant, the same class of BOW Chris has put down before, but Bane still has his technical intelligence underneath it. He knows where Chris is standing. He charges. Let's talk about what that charge actually means physically. A 2-ton object moving at roughly 25 miles per hour carries around 450,000 joules of kinetic energy at impact. Chris does not dodge it cleanly. Still enough to send him through a brick partition wall. 2 ribs crack. You can hear it. His RE8 armor takes structural damage along the left plate, which is now compromised for the rest of this fight. Chris Redfield's verified strength feat, pushing a multi-ton boulder in RE5, puts his force output at roughly 4,200 pounds of force under peak exertion. That's not enough force to stop a direct charge from Tyrant Bane, but it is enough to deflect one. A glancing parry on a charging mass that size redirects maybe 15% of the kinetic load. That's still survivable. Chris knows this. He's not trying to outmuscle the thing. He's buying angles. He spots the suspended fuel tank above the east wing entrance. Maintenance equipment never cleared out. One burst from the Dragoon into the mounting bracket. The tank drops. The secondary explosion is a column of fire directly onto Bane's exposed parasite core, the cluster of fungal tissue visible through the torn skin at his sternum. Parasite cores don't survive thermal events above 600 degrees Celsius. The megamycete collapses. Bane goes down in about 4 seconds, which is long enough to be terrifying, but short enough that Chris still has ammunition left. The explosion also takes the main gate with it. Survival tier A.
All right.
The Botanical Gardens fungal
And
poison.
you know, I'm letting Chris have this because people never let Chris have anything. In reality, I would say, you know, Bane is probably cooking him too. We're about to see what Poison Ivy would probably do to him. Oh yeah, and she already has like all that pheromone stuff and all that. Like she controls plants and all that. So this is right up her alley.
Poison Ivy. The main gate being gone means Chris has one route forward, through the Botanical Gardens on the north side of the island. Under normal circumstances, that's a greenhouse. Right now, it's something else entirely. The air hits him before the visuals do. It's thick. Not humid thick, but dense in a way that makes the back of his throat close up instinctively. The spore concentration out here is high enough to visibly cloud the beam of his tactical light. His gas mask filters were rated for standard chemical environments. They were not rated for this. The filtration media is already darkening. He can see it through the lens housing. He's got maybe 10 minutes of clean air before the mycelium bypasses the filter entirely. The plants in here aren't green anymore. The original botanical specimens, ivy, ferns, whatever Arkham kept growing in here for God knows what reason, are completely colonized. Black mycelium has replaced the vascular tissue. The vines move slowly the way vines don't, pulsating toward heat sources toward him. Poison Ivy in base Batman lore controls plant life through a pheromone-based biochemical interface. Her body produces compounds that bind to plant hormone receptors and essentially override autonomous growth behavior. That's already scientifically grounded.
Which is hilarious.
It's just exaggerated. What the megamycete did was merge with that interface directly. She's not controlling the fungal growth. She is the fungal growth. A human being so thoroughly integrated into a mycelium network that the distinction between body and organism stopped meaning anything. Ivy is that, but the network covers an entire city block. Her pheromones are now weaponized fungal neurotoxins, aerosolized and dispersed through the spore cloud Chris is already breathing. Here's what those compounds actually do. Fungal neurotoxins in the real world, compounds like psilocybin derivatives, ergot alkaloids, work by binding to serotonin receptors in the prefrontal cortex. They disrupt the brain's ability to filter sensory input. The megamycete version is faster acting and targets the amygdala directly, which is the part of the brain that processes fear. It doesn't just make you hallucinate. It makes you hallucinate specifically the things that already scare you the most. Chris starts seeing his BSAA squad. Jill, people he's watched die. They're standing between him and the root mass at the center of the garden, and his body's threat response system is screaming at him to stop moving, to acknowledge them, to process something his conscious mind knows isn't real, but his nervous system absolutely cannot tell the difference from. This is the hardest fight on the island so far, and nobody's thrown a punch. What saves him is 11 years of operating in conditions where stopping means dying. Muscle memory doesn't require the prefrontal cortex. He can't think his way through this, so he doesn't try. He pulls 2 incendiary grenades, closes his eyes and throws them by spatial memory toward the heat signature he clocked when he entered. The central root mass ignites. The pheromone glands burn. The spore cloud thins out in about 20 seconds as the production source collapses. The hallucinations cut off like a light switch. The garden goes still. Survival tier S. Intensive treatment. Wesker
Joker.
The
Yo,
central
what?
nervous system of the mold
Wesker Joker.
retracts into the intensive treatment
That would be
building the moment the
insane.
garden dies. Chris follows it. That's not instinct. That's 11 years
That'd
of
be
knowing
lit.
that when a bioweapon network pulls back, it's consolidating around something it wants to protect. Inside, the building is wrong in a specific way. The medical equipment's still there, the restraint chairs, the filing cabinets, the overhead surgical lights, but everything is webbed over in black mycelium, and the lights are still on. The Joker is sitting at the end of the main corridor in a wheelchair he doesn't need, grinning at the ceiling. He's bonded with the progenitor megamycete hybrid strain, the same family of virus that produced Wesker. What that means biologically is a hypermetabolism running at roughly 80 times the
Oh
standard
my
human rate.
God.
His neural processing speed is dramatically elevated. His reaction time
This kind of Joker Batman would have to put down. It'd be too much.
drops below 80 milliseconds, which is the threshold where conventional gunfire becomes effectively non-lethal because the target's already moving before the trigger breaks. Wesker could dodge bullets. The Joker, laughing, does the same thing, but chaotically, unpredictably, because his mind was never organized to begin with. That makes him harder to anticipate than Wesker ever was. There's no pattern to exploit. Chris opens with the Dragoon. 3-round burst, center mass, tight grouping. The Joker isn't there when the rounds arrive. He's laughing from somewhere to the left, then immediately somewhere behind, then directly in front with a scalpel that opens a cut along Chris's forearm before he can track the movement. This goes on for about 45 seconds, which is long enough that Chris runs the numbers and accepts the conclusion. He cannot win a speed fight. He has 1 round left in his magnum. 1. What he does next is not heroic. It's accounting. He knows the Joker monologues. Every version of this man in every context cannot resist stopping to explain how smart he is when he thinks he's won. Chris lets him think he's won. He drops the Dragoon. He stops moving. He holds his left arm out slightly, exposed, a deliberate opening. The Joker takes it, drives a scalpel into the meat of Chris's left forearm, and leans in close. Already laughing, already talking. Something about chaos and punchlines and how Chris is just another soldier who never understood the joke. Chris grabs him by the collar with that same left arm, drives through the pain, and puts the magnum against the Joker's sternum. The round hits the progenitor parasite cluster sitting behind his sternum. Without that cluster, the hypermetabolism collapses in seconds. The Joker slides down the wall, still smiling, the laugh going quieter and quieter. He manages to hit a panel on the armrest of the wheelchair with 1 finger. Somewhere deep in the building, a countdown starts. Thermobaric, 90 seconds. Chris wraps his arm, picks up the Dragoon, and runs out. Survival tier S. Chris clears the east wall and dives into the Gotham River as Arkham Asylum turns into a column of fire behind him. He survives 4 encounters, 2 cracked ribs, 1 punctured forearm, and a gas mask that stopped working an hour ago. He survives, but as he surfaces, he can already see the megamycete spores drifting off the smoke toward the city skyline. The nightmare just changed zip codes. If you want to see where Chris goes next, subscribe and leave a comment below. Who should he fight next?
That was awesome. Finally, some Chris love, dude. Let me know what you guys are thinking about that down in the comments below. Chris survives. In reality, he doesn't. We know he doesn't. Arkham Asylum, powered by the megamycete, would destroy Chris. I mean, this is just no way. And Joker Wesker, is like, that's insane, bro. That's insane. I would love to see another Joker Wesker like video. However he does it, I don't know, but like version of Joker that can move like Wesker and is still the Joker is badass. That'll do, boys. GG. That'll do.